Forsaken is a very big game, making it have a lot of different players. In this video, I'll be going over the different player types of Forsaken while stating different facts about them, so smash that like button and subscribe and let's get started. First, we have the beginner player. These players tend to be really oblivious, and by that I mean extremely confused. They often randomly use their abilities, but that's because they don't know what they're doing. Their stamina management is also terrible, and they always run out of stamina mid-chase. Beginners also often use the noob survivor, since they haven't found out about Elliot or Shedletsky also being free. This makes them not help the team at all, since they're playing a survivalist. Even if they do play another character, they will still rarely help. Them not helping often makes the killer leave them for last man standing, since they're an easy kill. And when the beginners do play killer, they often get absolutely no kills and get bullied by the whole server. These players are completely new to the game though, so you can't judge them too much. After the beginner, we have the role player. These players aren't usually new, but are very invested into the game's lore or different characters. They tend to use characters with heavy lore, the biggest example being 007 and 7. Most of the time when Cool Kid is the killer, 007 and 7 roleplayers start begging the killer for mercy and calling them a son. Not to mention that the killer often doesn't even want to roleplay. Another perspective is that Cool Kid leaves 007 and 7 for last man standing just to end up roleplaying the entire time. Shedletsky and 1x1x1x1 are also a good example, however, this is most common with 007 and 7 and Cool Kid. Generally, these players are kind of annoying though, mainly when wasting time and last man standing. I mean, it's great if you like a character, but I'm not here to roleplay while playing the game. After the role player, we have the AFK. However, there's two types of AFK players. The first type is the people that just AFK in matches. Most of the time these people are just trying to farm XP from free wins or just trying to be annoying. They often extend the round timer by simply giving the killer a free kill. But when the AFK becomes the killer, they often give a free win, but in other times only play when they are the killer. The second type is just people who sit in AFK mode for a long time, and in some cases half of the server will be AFK in the lobby. Generally, these players are very annoying if they're in a match, but don't really matter if they're on AFK mode. After the AFK, we have the troll player. These players tend to have experience and aren't new to the game. The trolls usually have annoying intentions, most of the time trying to throw the game. Most of the time they don't help the other survivors, and in some cases intentionally lead the killer to other people. They even go as far as to not give items like medkits and using abilities but purposely missing. There's multiple reasons they can be doing this, one of them being that they're mad at people. This can be because they may have lost last man standing to them, or just because they're mad at the other survivors. And another reason is because they want to be annoying, mainly to get attention from people. The trolls are way worse than AFK players, but you really cannot do much about it. After the troll, we have the grinder player. These players are most of the time trying to max out a character, but also sometimes grind money. But there's only one consistent way to do so, and that's by doing many generators. The grinders tend to do generators the entire game and only act when the killer starts chasing them. Some players do help the team between generators, but most people instantly go to the next one. Once all generators are done, the grinders tend to just dance in the corner of the map doing nothing. Other people on the other hand go on to help the team in order to win the game, however most of the time these players just wait for the win. The grinders can of course be annoying, but at least they sometimes try to help the other survivors. And let's be real, most of us have probably spent entire matches doing generators for the XP. On another note, even if players have maxed out a character, they often still do generators for the money or even malice. After the grinder, we have the toxic player. These players are arguably the most annoying ones, and that's for one reason. The toxic players don't necessarily throw the game, but they are extremely rude in multiple ways. There's countless methods for this, one of them being during killer chases. One example is that after they stun the killer, they usually tend to emote at them to be annoying. They sometimes even emote if the killer isn't stunned just to be as irritating as possible. But if that isn't enough, they even proceed to be toxic in chat. This happens, for example, if they lose a match to somebody, but also because of something else. If someone is very bad at the game, the toxic players tend to trash talk them a lot, often because the bad player made them lose or because the bad player makes mistakes. There are countless other ways these players are toxic, but those are a few very common examples. The toxic players are always super irritating and are not fun to encounter at any time. After the toxic, we have the high playtime player. These players play the game a lot and in some cases have every character to level 100. While they don't necessarily have to be a competent player, they do usually have some good skill and aren't bad at the game. However, most of the time they only stick with their favorite characters simply because they're the best at it. The high playtime players have a lot of wins obviously, but some of them have way less killer wins compared to survivor wins. This is because some of these players mainly play on the survivor side, either because they find it more fun or because they just aren't good at playing as the killer. Needless to say, there are some people who are amazing at playing killer, but this is of course not everybody. But this just shows that the high playtime players aren't generally super sweaty, which can be considered a good thing. They literally just play this game a lot for fun and they enjoy it, but there's really nothing wrong with that. After the high playtime, we have the looper player. As the name suggests, these players are very experienced at looping killers, making them pretty skilled at the game. They tend to be pretty competent and most of the time use guest 1337 when playing. The loopers can usually carry most of the game by themselves, so you definitely want them on your team. However, they do sometimes need some help, but that doesn't stop them from being really good players. On the other hand, when you're playing as the killer, the loopers can be extremely annoying to deal with. You either spend the entire match chasing them just to lose, or you cannot beat them in last man standing. So while you very obviously want them on your survivor team, they are horrendous to go against when you're the killer. Not to mention that the loopers are sometimes unbeatable with other survivors helping them. But the loopers are good players to have in your lobby since they practically carry the survivor team. After the looper, we have the savior player. These players are people who constantly save others from killers, in other words, survivors who are basically a bodyguard. The saviors often help people who are almost dead, but in some cases do it as soon as possible. That is, if they aren't doing generators. Most commonly, these players stun the killer a lot, but in some cases even tank hits for you. Their goal is pretty much to get the killer's attention off of someone else in order for that person to survive. The saviors are arguably less annoying than the loopers though, which is a good thing when you're the killer. However, this does mean that it's more difficult for the saviors to stall the killer. But in general, they're still very valuable teammates since they often prioritize helping the team. The loopers also help the team, but the saviors arguably do it more often. After the savior, we have the pro player. What makes these players unique is that they can consistently play every character in the game, and with that win pretty easily. If not all characters, they play at least a bunch of them. They do this to keep the gameplay fresh, seeing as playing one character gets really repetitive. The pros do usually have all characters they play at level 100, but sometimes just have their favorites at level 100. They also know very good tactics, both for different killers and survivors. Along with that, the pros also know how to use their character abilities very well. This makes them very good at playing killer to the point people may even consider it annoying. At the same time, they do help other survivors all the time and are generally very good teammates. The pros are basically a mix of the high playtime looper and savior players since they play this game for fun but are also very good at it. But that's it for this video. Comment down below which type of player you are and which others you think I should have mentioned. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.